And today we're bringing you our masterclass brought to you by Victor on nitro maintenance. I'm going to hand it over to Victor. Victor, we just ran a race. We're out bashing. What do we do now?
After a race, you always want to make sure everything in your engine is running good, because a lot of people always run into problems after a hot race. Any heat or anything, you'll start hearing knocking on your engine. It just means poor maintenance. The best way to actually get the best maintenance, the best out of your engine, is actually how you take care of it. From your air filter, what type of fuel you use, the nitro engine you're actually using. Because today this is a Navarrese engine. A lot of people will be using either Traxxas engines or the base engine. So don't get confused with what type of engine I'm using. All nitro engines almost run the same. This one's just it's a competition motor, so it's a little bit more different. But they all work the same. So the best general what you should know about maintenance for a nitro engine is just mostly after run oil will be this here. We set it here and just ask one of the RC techs to point the finger where we have this after oil or afterburn or conditioning oil. Every race, after you're done with every race, you should always put some of this, even after you're done bashing or anything, just because this actually helps your motor from locking up or any corrosion building inside, especially if you're keeping this motor locked in your garage or anywhere more than a week or a month or a year. This oil will save your engine, because if not, you're going to be wasting about $100 to $400 on a new engine. So from today, we just finished bashing anything around. So the first thing you have to do, after run oil, make sure the engine's off. It's gonna be a little hot, so don't worry about it. You could actually put this when it's cold, but more preferably when it's hot, just because the oil will actually seep through any small cracks or anything. And the best thing out of this, you need at least 10 drops. So you make sure your carburetor's open. So you don't have to have it on or anything, your RC on, just open the carburetor on. Put just 10 drops. Just 10 drops in there. Alright. And after it's done, a lot of the nitro guys will be running easy start, where on the Traxxas it's just a regular plug and play when it's starting off. If you have that, use it to actually start up the motor, because you need to make sure this lubrication gets through all the motors. But the first thing is make sure you take off the glow igniter plug out of it, because you don't need to start it, because you're just conditioning the oil. So once you take it off, just run it, let the oil kind of seep in through every crack. After it's done, just do a couple of pumps, let it off, put the air filter back in, and then you can store it. Now, before racing, if you actually go bash around and race, after this afterburn oil, don't worry about it. It'll still run as a normal nitro engine. It's gonna mix with your fuel whenever you start it up again, but don't worry about it do I need to empty it out? Do I need to blow air into it to get this oil out? Don't worry about it. This oil is actually nitro friendly, so it will mix right with your nitro engine. So be it your next run or any next day or following month, you should be all right just putting more, running it with the afterburn oil in it. So now, maintenance now. The most priority maintenance on a nitro will always be the air filter. The air filter is always what keeps your engine from running smooth and keeping the life form of the nitro engine keep going more and more. A lot of people actually don't think the filters don't do so much work. They just take them off and run them. They think they'll breathe better. It technically does, but you need this, especially if you're bashing around with dirt, water, sand, anything. You will always need an air filter. And just not any typical air filter. Traxxas, ProLite, a lot of brands sell pre-filled oil filters. Like this one's already pre-filled. So it's a double layered. There's your first layer, protects it from sand. And your primary layer that's oiled up, is mostly some of them will be lubed up or some of them won't be. We have to buy the air filter oil for it. But the main priority air filter will actually be the one that protects it from water or moisture. This is one thing you always need to make sure is always lubricated properly. You can actually just, not a few dots, mostly I always drench these with a lot of oil. Don't worry about it, like, oh, what if I put too much oil? It won't really matter, because this oil will actually sink through the carburetor and it'll still keep running. This always has to be well conditioned before any first run. And then your outer filter, you could actually oil this up, or you don't have to. Preferably, I end up conditioning it just so you can have 2 layers of actually protecting your nitro engine. So after that's oiled up, then you're good to go. Now, the other problem that a lot of guys are having is just, what about if it's dirty around the carburetor? What should I do? What you should do is, that actually needs to be cleaned off. You never want your carburetor to be dirty, just because it can actually take in debris and it can ruin your piston. Because your piston has a sleeve that if a rock or any little bitty debris goes in there, you're going to start getting scores or scratches on your piston where you start losing compression. And low compression leads to failure in engines, will lead to only running it for 5 minutes before the engine shuts off. So make sure your carburetor is always clean. And considering that too, while you're cleaning that, make sure your carburetor, the shaft inside is moving smoothly from inputting and outputting. So once that cleans off, that's good. Now, if in case you've been storing this in the garage for too long, there's dirt and everything on it, I don't recommend you taking it off and just cleaning it off while there's still dirt on it. I would actually take off the nitro engine and actually taking apart the carburetor and actually dumping it in gasoline, just sitting it there for a bit, and then taking it out to remove any old residue or dirt out of it. That's from any engine that's sitting more than a month to a year. If there's any debris around of it or any dust or anything forming around of it, I would strongly recommend taking it apart and cleaning it up. Now, the other maintenance that you need to learn that everybody needs to do is also your glow plug. Your glow plug is what ignites the combustion in your nitro engine. And this is one thing that a lot of guys also have problems with, that why isn't my nitro running? Maintenance it right will always lead to poor glow plugs. Every nitro engine has different glow plugs. This one I'm using right now is a turbo plug. These turbo plugs are only meant for competition motors or high-speed nitro engines. But for people who are running Traxxas or a standard 19 engine, 9.19 to 0.18, even lower than that, use standard glow plugs. They'll be the exact same thing like this one, just cut shorter. And the only thing you need to make sure is the coil inside here. It's still intact and is actually not corroding or not rusted. In order for you to check that out, get either your glow igniter, or if you have an easy start, just connect it back and start it. And if you see it glow red, that means it's good. That means this glow plug is actually good. Now, if it's somewhat fading away, make sure your glow plug is actually charged, or your battery from Easy Start is charged just to ignite it. Now, if it's barely igniting at all, you might have a bad glow plug. And you never want a bad glow plug. You should always make sure it ignites fully bright, because that will lead to a healthier nitro engine ignition. Because a poorly ignited will lead to more drowning your engine in fuel trying to start it up, and it's going to cause into more problems of more fuel consumption or anything. So always make sure your glow plug's always well intact, well maintenance, and at the same time cleaned. A lot of these nitros will also, you'll see a black ring around the outside or the inside. That's just meaning how you're running it. Right now, this plug, there's really not so much black on the outside because this engine is running good and clean. Now, if you're seeing any black or scars or anything on it, that might be just from the being dirty or poor maintenance on nitro engines. A lot of times, your glow plug should always be somewhat, I'll say black or a little charcoal. Just if it's completely black or charcoal, that means your engine's running bad. That means that's just poorly managed and not running healthy at all. Now, the next maintenance you're going to need to do is also your hoses. If you had, like I said, if you had an RC stored for more than a month to a year, check your hoses. A lot of people always run into trying to turn on their RC car for the first time after a month or a year. It won't start. They go through the glow plug, they look at the carburetor, they look at the air filter, make sure everything's clean, and they can't get it started. The main cause will be the fuel lines. The fuel lines will always be clogged up just due to the nitro fuel content that contains oil, and oil can actually crystallize or gunk up in your lines where it won't let any airflow or any fuel go through. In order for you to actually check that is take off the fuel line that goes directly to your exhaust, because that's actually pressure sending back to your fuel tank to push that fuel into your carburetor. In order for you to check that, just pull it out and just blow on it. If you see the bubbles and you see fuel flowing through, then that's a good sign. Now, if it's taking you a little bit more pressure to actually push the fuel into the carburetor, then that's a problem, meaning that inside the fuel tank, there is a filter built in, a little brass filter that sometimes it might have oil residue built into it, or it might just have a lot of debris into it. And a lot of times what I tell customers to do is just get 30% nitro or high concentration nitro, pour some in there, shake the tank a little bit, let it sit there for the night. But don't, if you have the old fuel in there, don't use that old fuel, use new fuel. So empty out your gas tank in a proper container for recycling nitro fuel, and put the new nitro fuel in here just so that nitro fuel can actually eat away that oil. Because if it doesn't eat up that oil away, then that oil will actually still be on that copper fitting and it won't let any fuel in. But with that new fuel in, it will actually will eat up the oil by a bit and will let more gas flow in little by little. So just keep blowing until you actually see a good consistent flow. But like I said, if it's a harder, then you won't be able to. Now that you have your fuel lines actually cleared away, the next stop is also your exhaust. Your exhaust should never have any debris stuck onto the tip, because that actually produces back pressure. Well, sometimes your nitro engine won't start. So a lot of times, this is a 3-piece pipe, so you have 1, 2, and 3. But mostly on tracks and a lot of RCs are only a 2-piece where a silicone fitting just comes off. So the easiest thing is just take off the zip ties, cut them off, take off the exhaust, and just look inside. Don't run water through it. I highly do not recommend for you running water through it. Just get an air blower, blow air through it just to get debris or old oil just gunked up into the exhaust, just to make sure the exhaust port is actually free from any back pressure buildup. And when that you do, like I said, just blow air into it, let it all out. Even from the back tube, even if you take off the engine apart, still do it, because I actually recommend cleaning the exhaust. A lot of people don't really say, oh, it's not really important, but it actually is, because that's what actually your back pressure that comes back to you, because every exhaust is different for every manufacturer. Traxxas does have back pressure on their exhaust, so they recommend that you also clean the exhaust. That's why it's easy for you to actually take it apart and actually blow air into the exhaust and put it back on, just for better maintenance on it. It's like you treating it on a regular car. Regular car need back pressure. Same thing with nitro. Nitro engines need some back pressure. So always make sure your exhaust is always clean and well maintenance. Now the next thing for maintenance will also be your shoes, your clutch. A lot of times these do go out to excessive high speed or bashing for long periods of time with extremely heat. They're almost like a clutch on a regular standard car. They work the same way. There's ceramic clutch on it. It has ceramic small little shoes that are springed. If you have any problems turning it on and it just takes off by itself, and whenever you try to stop it, the engine stops, that means your shoes are going out, meaning that it's grabbing onto the bell housing without just idling and just spinning around without grabbing it. Now, in order for you to fix that, you actually have to take the motor apart. When you take the motor apart, there'll be a bell housing. The bell housing is where it has a pinion gear. For more likely, that's what it is, mostly like a pinion gear. You take that apart, and inside you'll see a ceramic shoe or a plastic shoe, because there's some companies that still use a plastic shoe instead of a ceramic shoe. And you check that. Now, all of them have a spring action that actually lets the shoe come out at high RPMs. Now, if you actually grab that and it just flicks out by itself, then that's a bad sign of a bad shoe. In order for you to actually fix that, is you have to go to your nearby Hobbytown off Highway 6 to actually ask and have us give you an advice on what to do. More likely, it will just be buying you a new shoe for your clutch to installing it. And installing it will be easy on some. Traxxas is just easy play. It's just a spring wrapped around the ceramic shoe and it just goes right onto the nitro engine right away. Well, other ones like this one actually uses a 3-puck shoe, so a little bit harder, where the springs actually have to be inputted on each shoe. So that will be a little bit more different to put on. But that'll be one scenario to actually check, just if in case you're having problems just keeping your car still. If you turn it on and your car just takes off by itself, or if you turn it on and out of nowhere when you put it on the ground it just stops, that means your shoes are out. Meaning that your clutch is going out, the springs on them are going out, and you need to replace those as soon as possible, or there won't be any more playtime with it.